Indeed, breaking news. A few minutes ago, it became known that the United States of America has officially entered into war against Iran. The President of the United States, Donald Trump, announced that American fighter jets struck key Iranian nuclear facilities a few minutes ago. These are Fordo, of course, Natanz, and Isfahan. And now Donald Trump is demanding that Iran finally agree to peace talks and the signing of a nuclear deal. And here it's important to note what preceded this attack. This includes the deployment of B-2 heavy bombers, which are capable of carrying those very heavy bunker-busting bombs. Guided Bomb Unit 57. And in addition, there were reports that the Americans might even use tactical nuclear weapons because there were doubts that the Guided Bomb Unit 57 could penetrate the bunkers of the nuclear facility in Fordo. At the same time, there were reports today that Ali Khamenei, the Ayatollah of Iran, has disappeared and is out of contact. And Trump, together with Erdogan, tried to hold negotiations in Istanbul this week, but because Ali Khamenei disappeared and is not answering phone calls, he was unable to coordinate these negotiations, and as a result, they fell through. But let's take it step by step and discuss the latest key news now. My name is Alexei Pechi. It's already June 22nd on the calendar, and before we break everything down, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, like this episode, and leave any comment you want. And make sure to subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pechi News, link in the video description. There we post breaking news as soon as it comes in. So, from the latest news, United States President Donald Trump announced on Saturday that the United States has carried out a very successful attack on nuclear facilities in Iran, including Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. The United States President stated that all aircraft are now outside Iranian airspace. Next is a quote from Donald Trump. "We have completed our very successful attack on 3 nuclear facilities in Iran, including Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. All aircraft are now outside Iranian airspace. The full set of bombs was dropped on the main Fordo facility. All aircraft are returning home safely. Congratulations to our great American warriors. There are no other military forces in the world that could have done this. Now is the time for peace. Thank you for your attention to this matter." From this moment on, we can say that the United States has truly entered into a war against Iran. And after Donald Trump's attempts to persuade the Iranians to engage in reasonable negotiations on the nuclear deal, the Americans carried out their threat of military intervention. Nevertheless, on the eve of this attack, President Trump stated that he was still supposedly considering whether to involve American troops in offensive strikes against Iranian nuclear facilities. And he made this statement during a meeting with his national security team at the White House on Saturday. According to officials, Trump's preferred option is still to seek a diplomatic solution to the Israeli-Iranian conflict, but only if the Iranians are much more open to negotiations and willing to make significant concessions. The White House insisted for a long time that its red line was Tehran's agreement to Trump's demands for zero uranium enrichment, which Tehran is unwilling to do. And as Trump stated the day before, he gave himself a maximum of 2 weeks, starting from Thursday, to make a decision. And he said that if negotiations with Iran remain unrealistic, he might decide to move forward with one of the attack plans he considered this week. And now we see that Trump has ultimately decided to go to war and attack nuclear facilities. It is known that Israel had already attacked, in particular, the Natanz and Isfahan facilities the day before. But Israel's main problem is that they still don't have the aircraft and bombs capable of actually penetrating those bunkers. Because, for example, Fordo is the most protected nuclear facility in Iran, where uranium is enriched to 60% purity. According to various estimates, it is located at a depth of about 80 to 90 meters, and accordingly penetrating to such a depth is very difficult. And the only heavy bomb that can supposedly penetrate such thickness is the American Guided Bomb Unit 57 bomb, which weighs almost 14 tons. And I talked in detail about this bomb, how it works, and why B-2 aircraft are needed to use it. I covered this in depth in another episode. So go to the channel and be sure to watch one of the previous episodes and you'll understand what's going on. In addition to this, it should be noted that the day before, in the White House Situation Room, where decisions are made about entering or not entering a war, there was a discussion about doubts as to whether this guided bomb unit, 57 bomb, could actually reach its target and hit that very underground nuclear facility, Fordo, in Iran. And against this backdrop, there were even reports from the Pentagon that Washington is considering the use of tactical nuclear weapons in order to break through this defense and deliver a truly devastating strike. And here we need to discuss what preceded this attack. Because on Saturday, several B-2 bombers took off from air bases in the United States and headed to the Pacific Ocean, since Trump publicly stated that he would most likely strike Iran. And as reported, the movement of these planes by itself was not a sign that a potential strike was inevitable. Supposedly, in the past few days, there has been a massive redeployment of aircraft to the Middle East region and to Western Europe. And supposedly, everyone was saying that maybe this is some kind of diplomatic pressure. Nevertheless, today B-2 bombers, which according to flight tracking data were accompanied by tanker aircraft, were already flying, clearly armed with those very heavy bombs, and it was already becoming obvious that the attack was indeed going to happen. Trump thought for a long time about whether to use American bombs to strike the well-fortified Iranian nuclear facility Fordo, which Israeli forces would not be able to reach on their own. And on Saturday evening, Trump attended a national security meeting in the Oval Office. After that, he wrote this post on the social network Truth Social, where he said that we had already carried out these strikes. Overall, in Donald Trump's party, the Republican Party, two camps have emerged regarding the issue of direct military intervention in Iran, and the split between them grew stronger as each side became more entrenched. While the interventionists and Iran hawks were urging Trump to take action, the isolationists were warning against getting involved in another major war in the Middle East. On the other hand, it should be added that the decision to move the B-2 was made after Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi warned on Saturday that any direct United States intervention in the Iran-Israel conflict would be very, very dangerous. Meanwhile, the Israeli military said on Saturday that they struck an Iranian nuclear research center and killed 3 more Iranian soldiers in targeted attacks. And a high-ranking Israeli military official ordered the army to prepare for a prolonged campaign. In addition, it was also noted today that Israel essentially cleared Iran's airspace the day before in order to open up this corridor. Clearly, this was done to allow American heavy bombers to enter so they could freely strike Iran's nuclear facilities. Obviously, Trump will now once again call on Tehran to negotiate, but this time in the form of an ultimatum, essentially demanding surrender, and for Iran to fully comply with the nuclear deal, specifically to abandon its aggressive nuclear program. Let's see how Tehran will respond to this. It's obvious that Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's regime will fight back until the very end, clinging to power with everything they've got. And it's possible that the same Yemeni Houthis will now resume their attacks in the Red Sea. And Iran will make maximum use of the remaining proxy forces it still has in the Middle East, plus it will make full use of its ballistic missile capabilities for new strikes against Israel. Nevertheless, it's also important to note what I mentioned in one of today's previous episodes. This is that Donald Trump and Recep Tayyip Erdogan have been making every effort this week to arrange direct talks between American and Iranian officials in order to sign a nuclear deal. And it's known that Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi and Iran's president Pezeshkian held direct talks with Erdogan so that he could pass their message on to the American president. And when Donald Trump stated that he was even personally ready to fly to Istanbul and actually sign the agreement, the Iranian side began trying to contact Ali Khamenei because only he can approve or disapprove such negotiations. And after several hours of trying to contact Tehran with Ali Khamenei, it became clear that Ali Khamenei was hiding in a deeply protected bunker, that Ali Khamenei had completely refused any means of communication, that he had left only one envoy there. A single trusted person through whom he communicates even with his own military commanders, not letting anyone else near him. And it's obvious that Arakchi and Pezeshkian simply couldn't get through, couldn't reach Khamenei to confirm these negotiations with him. And after several hours of such attempts to contact Khamenei, Iranian officials were forced to tell Erdogan, sorry, we can't do it. And Erdogan had already told Trump that the negotiations wouldn't take place. And after that, we see this air campaign of strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities by the Americans. So obviously, Trump was still giving a last chance for diplomacy before making this decision. And it's also important to note the reaction of Middle Eastern countries here, because of course everyone publicly condemns this escalation. For example, Saudi Arabia hinted that Israel should stop, but at the same time there is a military base on Saudi Arabian territory. And open source intelligence analysts have noticed that in recent days this airbase has simply been flooded with American planes. Refueling planes was sent there, F-16S was sent there, those very radar detection planes was sent there, and so on. That is in any case all the military bases in the Middle East, like the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, all these bases of course have been reinforced over the past week. And I talked a lot about this too, showing how this redeployment was carried out, how air bridges were created between the United States of America and the Middle East, so that streams of weapons, American weapons, could be quickly transferred in this direction. And obviously, these bridges were used today, and most likely they will continue to be used. If the Iranian regime does not surrender, because it's obvious that Trump will no longer go for any half measures if he has already resorted to entering the war, then obviously there will be no half measures. Next, they will really expect Iran to surrender. I think that by morning there will be more details about this attack, and of course we will get together, gather all the information and discuss it together. For now, I'll leave it at that. And to stay as informed as possible while we wait for more details, I recommend going to my channel and watching at least the last 5 episodes on this topic, so that you can understand the full context of what's happening, so you don't have any gaps in your knowledge about what's going on. And how was this attack on Iran's nuclear facilities prepared in the first place? Take a look at what these facilities are, why they are considered highly protected, what kind of weapons the American military used, why Israel couldn't do it alone, and how Israel prepared everything for this operation. All this information is available on my YouTube channel. I went over all of this in great detail, even delving into the technical features of certain American weapons. That's why I recommend you go to the channel, subscribe, and be sure to watch the previous episodes. And finally, I'll just add that American President Donald Trump announced he will address the nation at the White House on Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time after what he called a very successful military operation targeting Iranian nuclear facilities. And here's the quote: "I will address the nation at 10 o'clock p.m. at the White House regarding our very successful military operation in Iran." This is a historic moment for the United States, Israel, and the world. Iran must now agree to end this war. So friends, I'll leave it at that for now. We'll come back to this topic. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. If you want to support the work of this channel, you can do so financially with any donation. You can use the links and payment details in the description of this video or the quick response code on your screens. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves, everyone. Goodbye. Subtitles created by